Good evening, friends. Welcome back to your daily clinical briefing for Wednesday, August 26, 2026. Today, we are breaking down a landmark series of FDA approvals that completely alter the treatment paradigms for rare hematologic and oncological conditions. First, the FDA has approved Johnson & Johnson's Imavi, nipocalimab, making it the first ever targeted therapy for warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Second, a major frontline shift in gastroesophageal oncology, Ziihera, zanidatamab, has picked up two massive combination approvals for HER2-positive advanced gastric and esophageal cancers. We will also cover a major public health warning issued by the Indian Medical Association regarding an H1N1 surge, critical data out of the British Medical Journal on CTE prevalence in athletes, and a market shift where 14% of U.S. employers are planning to drop GLP-1 coverage next year. Let's dive straight into the clinical data. Section 1, the FDA Desk and Clinical Trials. #1. Imavi approval for warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia, WAIHA. Host, let's begin with hematology. The US FDA has granted priority review approval to Imavi, nipocalimab, for adults and pediatric patients aged 12 and older suffering from warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia who have been previously treated with corticosteroids. The problem: historically, we have relied heavily on broad immunosuppression, steroids and rituximab, which carry severe long-term toxicities and frequently fail to maintain durable responses. The mechanism: Imavi is a monoclonal antibody that targets the neonatal Fc receptor, FcRn, explicitly lowering pathogenic IgG autoantibody levels without triggering global immune system depletion. The data: the approval stems from the phase 2 of 3 energy study, N=115. 3 times as many patients on Imavi achieved a durable hemoglobin response compared to the placebo cohort by week 24. Notably, clinicians observed a mean hemoglobin increase of 1 g/dl as early as week 1, alongside a 3.5-point improvement in FACIT-fatigue scores. Adverse reactions: watch for peripheral edema, diarrhea, and pyrexia. Be aware that as an FcRn inhibitor, it carries an increased risk of infection and infusion-related reactions. #2. Ziihera, zanidatamab, reshapes gastric oncology. Moving to oncology, Jazz Pharmaceuticals' Ziihera, zanidatamab, has secured a massive first-line indication for HER2-positive advanced or metastatic gastric, gastroesophageal junction, GEJ, and esophageal adenocarcinomas. The FDA approved 2 distinct regimens based on the phase 3 Horizon GEA-01 trial. This establishes a new standard of care in the frontline setting, outperforming traditional trastuzumab-based chemo arms. If you have patients presenting with advanced GEA, update your molecular testing workflows to flag HER2 status immediately at baseline. Section 2, Public Health and Global Devices, NE. IMA Public Health Advisory on Seasonal H1N1 Surge. Host, shifting focus to infectious disease and public health. The Indian Medical Association, IMA, has issued an urgent public health advisory in response to a sharp spike in seasonal influenza A, H1N1, cases during the ongoing monsoon season. The numbers: laboratory-confirmed cases have surged dramatically, with Delhi reporting over 1,770 cases alongside heavy caseloads in Maharashtra, Karnataka, and West Bengal. The clinical warning: the IMA is strongly cautioning community physicians and patients against the rampant, empirical misuse of broad-spectrum antibiotics like azithromycin, amoxicillin clavulanate, and cefixime for viral flu symptoms. The rationale: the advisory stresses that indiscriminate antibiotic use during viral surges destroys protective microbiome flora and fuels lethal antimicrobial resistance, AMR. Furthermore, they clarified that genetic sequencing shows no new mutations in the circulating H1N1 strain. It remains mild and self-limiting for most. Reserve antivirals like oseltamivir strictly for high-risk, clinically indicated categories. 2. Clinical infrastructure disaster in Islamabad. We also have a devastating infrastructure alert coming out of Pakistan. A severe fire erupted in the newborn nursery of the state-run Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences, PIMS, in Islamabad, killing at least 14 infants. Preliminary reports attribute the blaze to an air conditioning unit compressor explosion inside the neonatal facility. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has ordered an immediate investigation. For healthcare administrators watching, this stands as a tragic reminder of the critical importance of rigorous, routine HVAC maintenance and automated fire suppression compliance within neonatal intensive care units. Section 3, New Research and Meta-Analyses. BMJ Study, Chronic Traumatic Encephalopathy, CTE, Prevalence. Let's look at sports medicine and neurology. A groundbreaking study published in the British Medical Journal has revealed that at least 25% of NFL players who died between 2016 and 2021 had chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. Asterisk study design. Lead author Dr. Daniel Dangevar analyzed a sample size of 878 former players who appeared in at least one professional game. Because CTE can currently only be diagnosed postmortem, the team utilized complex demographic data and death certificates to correct for the inherent selection bias of brain donations. Asterisk the takeaway, the 25% figure is considered a conservative, low-end baseline estimate. The study notes that the mathematical maximum prevalence could be as high as 97%. As primary care providers and neurologists, this underscores the necessity of aggressive cognitive screening and long-term neuroprotective strategies for any patient with a history of repetitive head trauma. Longevity and lifestyle medicine demystified. Next up, if you practice lifestyle medicine, you need to read a new critical narrative review published in Minerva Medica. Asterisk the objective, researchers synthesized multidisciplinary data across demography, gerontology, and genetics to see if extreme longevity, living to 100 plus years, can truly be engineered via standardized lifestyle modifications. Asterisk the verdict, while balanced nutrition, routine physical activity, and robust social networks drastically optimize health span and lower premature mortality, there is insufficient evidence to prove that these behaviors alone guarantee centenarian survival. The data confirms that extreme longevity remains a highly probabilistic, multifactorial outcome driven by the complex interplay of biological resilience, environmental factors, and sheer genetics. It's a great piece of evidence to manage patient expectations regarding commercialized longevity recipes. Section 4, Healthcare Policy, Managed Care and Pharma Mergers. The GLP-1 Coverage Cliff. Turning now to the business of healthcare and managed care markets. A massive report dropped today in MMM, Medical Marketing and Media, indicating that 14% of U.S. employers are actively planning to drop insurance coverage for GLP-1 obesity medications next year. Asterisk the context, despite immense clinical success from agents like semaglutide and tirzepatide in primary care pathways, the compounding financial burden is forcing employers to roll back benefits. Asterisk clinical impact. Simultaneously, Eli Lilly has launched its weight management platform, Foundeo, in the UK to expand direct access. However, for US-based clinicians, this 14% drop means you must prepare for an influx of prior authorization rejections and insurance appeals heading into the upcoming fiscal cycles. You may need to familiarize yourselves with tier-structured lifestyle and bariatric alternatives if your patients lose coverage. Cybersecurity and medical devices. On the policy front, federal healthcare funding is facing structural scrutiny. U.S. Senator Rick Scott has called for a definitive ban on using Medicare, Medicaid, or other federal healthcare funds to purchase Chinese-made medical devices. The push is driven by documented cybersecurity vulnerabilities in internet-connected patient monitors, such as the Context CMS 8000, which could expose sensitive real-time vitals and ECG data to foreign espionage. Expect tighter IT and procurement vetting protocols across hospital networks over the coming quarters. Variability in Mycoplasma pneumoniae testing practices highlights the need for diagnostic best practices in children hospitalized with respiratory illnesses, as well as the need for a national surveillance system for the infection, new research showed. The study found a five-fold increase in striking institutional variability in M. pneumoniae testing in children hospitalized for respiratory illnesses. The researchers, from Stanford University in California, conducted the research after noting a surge in the number of children admitted to their hospital with M. pneumoniae infections. Medscape. Asterisk continuous glucose monitoring system asterisk. These devices, also called interstitial glucose measuring devices, are combined with insulin pumps. They are similar to fingerstick glucose results and can show patterns and trends in your results over time. There are different kinds of CGM systems. Some are separate devices, and others are attached to an insulin pump. WEBM. Outro and community engagement. That wraps up our intensive briefing for today, August 26, 2026. We covered the landmark FDA approvals of Amavi for WAIHA and Ziihera for advanced gastric cancers, critical H1N1 advisory updates, and impending corporate pullbacks on GLP-1 coverage. Before you go, I want to hear from our community in the comments section. Asterisk, how are your clinics handling the increasing financial barriers to GLP-1 therapies? Asterisk, have you started managing patients who face sudden insurance coverage drop-offs? Asterisk, what are your thoughts on implementing the new Ziihera combination regimens in your local oncology wards? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to ensure you never miss your daily clinical digest. Stay sharp, practice evidence-based medicine, and we will see you right here tomorrow. Disclaimer: compiled information. This content is for educational purposes and is not a substitute for professional advice. The audience must verify the contents before use. The creator, publisher, and YouTube will not be responsible for any harm.